Well, I want to welcome my panel and get reaction from former Labor MP Michael Danby and Senior Fellow at the Menzies Research Centre, Nick Cater. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. You would have seen the Coalition's announcement earlier today. I'll start with you, Nick, because I know you've been right across this issue of energy. What did you think of Peter Dutton's announcement, and do you think that the public will buy it?
I think they will. I think, if anything, Peter Dutton was a little bit modest about his policy. He said it was the cheapest and most effective and secure way to achieve our power objectives. I think it's increasingly the only way to do it, James, because the thing that's going for Peter Dutton is he can point to a couple of dozen countries around the world that have substantially reduced their carbon emissions by switching to nuclear and have brought down energy prices. Unfortunately for Albanese, he can't point to one country anywhere in the world that has gone the 100% renewable route and has actually kept the lights on, let alone brought the power prices down. So international experience is really on Peter Dutton's side. And I sense this increasing desperation on Labor's side. It's all about insults. It's all about the clever, smart-ass one-liners. They're not actually answering the substance of the argument that nuclear is the only way to get substantial reductions in carbon emissions and keep the lights on.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point when you hear Labor ministers responding like that. And of course, I showed Jason Clare on breakfast television this morning. I think people tune out because they realise that's not an argument. Michael, most people are going to get lost in the he said, she said argument that will ensue over the coming months about whose costings are correct. But as I argued in my editorial, I think most people are going to look at their electricity bill and they're going to believe that, aren't they?
That's exactly what they're going to do. That's the evidence that they'll have in front of their faces up until the election. I mean, Chris Bowen is an absolute genius. He's always promoted upwards when he should have been thrown out. He's the bloke who told Bill Shorten to put up taxes on middle management's share of prices. And now we've got... and he told us, if you don't like it, don't vote for us. I mean, go back to basic principles, Mr. Bowen. You're meant to be in favour of poorer people, working class people, pensioners. They're the ones we should be looking after. And manifestly, this sort of green Ayatollah attitude to politics is not working for the average person. Look at the opinion polls. See what happened to Donald Trump. People will vote their interests and they'll vote against you.
Yep, well, the argument is now going to be on for young and old, and this issue, no doubt, will dominate as we head towards the election. I want to talk about sport for a moment, and I know we're supposed to be talking politics, so I thought, why don't we combine the two? Because, I mean, the Prime Minister certainly has. The federal government has just bought itself a rugby league team in Papua New Guinea, and no, it wasn't out of the goodness of their heart. We're spending $600 million so that PNG hopefully, and hopefully is the key word here, will reject any untoward advances from China. Written into the fine print of the funding for the Papua New Guinean NRL team is Australia's right to scrap the deal if PNG ever sign a security deal with Beijing. Nick, this is sort of soft diplomacy, but how soft is it? It seems pretty overtly political to me.
It's soft as blancmange, isn't it, James? I mean, look, I find this whole thing absolutely bizarre. Look, there is a real issue, right? Nobody is disputing that governments of both persuasions have not invested enough in diplomacy and securing our near region. And China has been making hay in there. But I don't think rugby league is quite going to cut it. I mean, maybe I'm just not a great rugby league fan. Number one, does it really cost $600 million to buy a rugby league team? And number two, is that really the business of government? Shouldn't we be thinking about, for instance, investing in their police force, investing in their defence, investing in their energy system, perhaps, by putting in some small modular reactors? I just think that, it's going to be a very ineffective an almost quite laughable way of trying to keep the Chinese at bay.
Well, I don't know. I think Michael might take a different view. I'm thinking, could we have rugby league teams in the Solomon Islands, in Nauru? We could put them right through the Pacific. Does this sort of thing work, Michael? What do you think? Is it advisable policy?
Where does it end? Are we going to have a rugby league or an AFL team in Fiji and Tuvalu? And it's ridiculous. The poor Papua New Guineans must think we think that they're such a bunch of crooks that if we'll take away their rugby league team if they don't keep a strict policy against China. We should be explaining to them that it's not in their interest to have an authoritarian communist state having power over their defence or security matters. I'm sure that would be a better way of handling it, but it's profligate. It's so much money, even though it's over 10 years, and it's so parochial too. It's, Albo thinks that everyone in Australia supports subsidising NRL clubs. I'm sorry, they don't. I don't support supporting AFL clubs as a matter of foreign policy. It's not appropriate. It shows we think that the Papua New Guineans are crooks. And there's a serious issue with China, which I'll remind you both, the government doesn't handle in any serious way. Penny Wong's never up at the United Nations criticising the Chinese. Albo never says a word about the Uyghurs or the Tibetans, and double standards, wrong priorities as usual.